Teron Armstead announces his retirement from the NFL. Will this force the Miami Dolphins to take an offensive tackle in round one? Plus, why are the Miami Dolphins sitting on $17 million of salary cap space and not adding to their offensive line or their defensive line? We'll talk about it all on today's show. Let's get after it. You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Good evening, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Saturday evening, April the 5th. I am your host, Mike Oliva. I didn't plan on having a show tonight, but moments ago, news just broke that Miami Dolphins left tackle Teron Armstead announced his retirement. Not a shocker, but it's news that we have to talk about here as there's going to be some fallout from this. So we're going to talk about that on today's show. Also, I'm going to address, because I keep getting asked this a lot, why the Dolphins, who have $21 million in salary cap space, which is really 17, because you have to factor in the $4 million to pay their rookie draft class, why they're not out there, signing another offensive guard, why they're not out there signing a corner, why they're not out there signing a defensive lineman when you only have two on the team, which I always like to say is really one, because Benito Jones really ain't that good. So I'm going to address that as well, and some of the logic that the Dolphins have right now with their salary cap and how they're moving forward. But before we get to that, let's get some of the business stuff out of the way. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, do me a favor, smash that like button. Also subscribe to the channel, but smash that like button. And if you have a comment, please put it in the comment section. I will do my best to respond. Also, a shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Caneswear. Oh, yeah, we love Caneswear. Everyone go to the website, caneswear.com. for the very best Miami Dolphins apparel on the internet. They are so good when it comes to the Dolphins. The most affordable and best apparel for the Miami Dolphins is at the website, caneswear.com. If you need a Miami Dolphins jersey, hat, hoodie, polo, golf shirt, t-shirt, socks, mug, mittens, whatever, they got it with the Miami Dolphins logo on it. They also have stuff. They also have all the apparel for the Miami Heat, Florida Panthers, Miami Hurricanes, Miami Marlins. They got some Florida stuff. They have some Florida State and University of Florida there stuff as well. University of Florida, congratulations going to the championship game Monday night as they just beat Auburn. But go to the website, caneswear.com, for the very best Miami Dolphins apparel. You won't regret it. Dolphins Talk Extra, our Patreon service. We had a big announcement today. Go to Patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. Sign up for $3 a month. Here's what you get. A private message board only with us and other extra members. You get bonus podcasts, some about the Dolphins, some not about the Dolphins, about pro wrestling, music, Major League Baseball, NBA, TV, radio. We cover it all with bonus podcasts. Contests, we give away bobblehead dolls, autographs, all that good stuff. You're automatically entered. And coming up in a couple weeks, Friday night, April 18th at 8 p.m., we have an interactive mock draft. That's right. Dolphins Talk Extra members who want can join myself, Josh, and Aaron, and we're going to give everyone a few teams, and we're going to have a mock draft. So you could be drafting for the Miami Dolphins, you could be drafting for the Minnesota Vikings, the Indianapolis Colts. We might give you, say Houston, the Rams, and the Jets, and you're going to be the GM, and you'll be on a podcast with us. And when they're on the clock, you're going to make those picks. It's going to be a lot of fun, but you got to sign up for $3 a month. Go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. And last thing, we have another contest where we're giving away a 2025 Miami Dolphins draft hat. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it on the screen. The official one that the players will wear walking across the stage here in a few weeks. So who's ever picked in round one by the Dolphins will wear this hat. All you have to do is go to our Apple Podcast page, leave us a 5-star rating, write a positive review. That's where it's got to be positive. Take a screenshot of it and email it to DolphinsTalk1977@gmail.com. You're automatically entered in the contest. And on April 7th, which is coming up here real quick, I'm going to draw a winner. And if you win, you get this official draft hat of the Miami Dolphins 2025 that the players will wear walking across the stage. All right, let's get into the news. Teron Armstead retired. Like I said, not a shock. And he did rework his deal back in early March, which gave Miami $14 million in salary cap space. And when he did that, this was kind of expected. And the reason he did that is he knew the Miami Dolphins were going to cut him and release him before the start of the new league year. He did not want that because he wanted to have time on his hands to make this decision. And he didn't want to be on the open market. And he also didn't want to hurt the Dolphins, sort of forcing them to cut him. Because if he did want to play, he'd want to play in Miami. So he wanted to be with the Dolphins under contract. But really, when he reworked his deal, when he had no reason to, everyone just sort of assumed and kind of expected this was going to be the outcome. Armstead signed a 5-year deal in 2022 with the Miami Dolphins for $75 million with $43 million guaranteed. Now that he's officially retired, we look back in hindsight, did he live up to that contract? Kind of tough to say because when he did play, man, he was outstanding. But in 2022, he only played in 13 games. 2023, he only played in 10 games. Now, last year, he started 15, but in 2 of them, he left early. So really, he only played in 13 games. And you have to be on the field more than that to justify that type of deal, honestly. So I don't know. I mean, he played at a high level when he played, so I guess the deal ended up being fine. But, man, he did miss a lot of games. And he did do the Miami Dolphins a solid, though, on the way out the door, reworking his deal back in early March, first day of the Combine. When Mike McDaniel said that first day of the Combine when he met with the media, look, we're planning to move on without Teron Armstead. And to me, even if Armstead wasn't going to retire and he wanted to play this year, it wasn't going to be with Miami because, again, this team last year was so old and so broken down. They had to get rid of some of the older guys. They had to get younger. Plus, you take Patrick Paul in round 2 last year, a top 60 pick, you got to get him on the field. Otherwise, what's the point of having a pick in round 2 on a player that's just not going to play? So even if Armstead wasn't going to retire, I don't think he was going to be back in Miami. So there's that. Now, moving forward with Miami's offensive line. This hurts, obviously, because Armstead, again, when he plays, is like Pro Bowl level. But this now means that Patrick Paul is as of today, your starting left tackle. He's unproven. Austin Jackson is your starting right tackle. He's always injured. And your backup swing tackle is Larry Borum, who's just not any good. So offensive tackle is on the list of needs here for this draft, up there with offensive guard, up there with obviously defensive end and defensive tackle and corner and safety. They have a lot of needs. And this leads to the question, should Miami take an offensive tackle now, pick 13? Does anything change with Armstead officially gone? Now it's official. No more maybe, or there's no more speculation. I still say no. I think we got to give Patrick Paul 1 season. We really do. He's got to get 1 year to see if he can sink or swim. And at pick 13, I want a guy who's going to come in and start right away at a position he knows how to play. So if you want to take an offensive guard at 13, which I don't think Chris Greer will ever do, that's fine. I get it. But it better be a guard. If they're going to take Kelvin Banks, who's never played offensive guard a day in his life, and move him there, I have a lot of problems with that. Will Campbell, if he should fall, which I don't think he will, I have less problems because I think he is suited to play offensive guard, even though he has no experience there. I feel far more comfortable with him being there, but he might be the only guy, honestly. He really might be the only offensive tackle I would feel comfortable. Well, Armand Membo as well, but I don't think either one of them are going to be there, so I'm not even going to talk about that. But I don't know if this changes anything with Miami going offensive tackle in round 1, because if they take an offensive tackle in round 1, whether it's Kelvin Banks, Will Campbell, whatever, and they just outplay Patrick Paul in training camp and they start at offensive tackle, and Patrick Paul is now a second-round pick who's just nothing more than a backup in year 2, that's not good. That's a bad look for the GM and head coach, like really bad. So I want to see if Patrick Paul can sink or swim. Look, I don't think we're going to be very good this year anyways, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute. So let's just find out. And if Paul stinks on toast, then next year we got to find ourselves an offensive tackle. And maybe let's not waste a pick in this year's draft. Let's use those picks to fill defensive line, corner, safety. So next year, those positions might not be huge needs, and we can then maybe focus in on offensive tackle if Patrick Paul's not the guy. But hopefully Patrick Paul is the guy, and it just solves anything. Because I know Patrick Paul, if you go by PFF numbers, which I don't, wasn't great last year, but a lot of those poor numbers were when he was on the right side, filling in for Austin Jackson and such. When he was on the left side, filling in for Armstead, he wasn't bad. I mean, he wasn't great, but he wasn't bad either. And I want to see Patrick Paul full-time left tackle and see how this goes. So that's where I am on that. The other aspect of Armstead retiring that needs to be spoken about is leadership. You have Armstead gone, Raheem Mostert gone, Calais Campbell gone. Probably the three most respected locker room leaders and voices on this team gone. Who fills that void? Mike McDaniel at his end of season press conference, and why he admitted this, I don't know, but it's true. So I give him some credit for being honest. Said there were some players showing up late for meetings, and they would fine them, and the fines didn't work. They would continue to show up late for meetings. That's a culture problem. That's a locker room problem. It sounds like a frat house with no adults in the room. And the few adults that were there, Armstead, Mostert, Calais Campbell, are now gone. That's not a good sign for 2025. You cannot trust Tyreek Hill to be a leader on this team. That would be a joke. Jalen Ramsey's kind of a quiet leader for the most part, not that vocal leader. I don't know if he's going to fill this void. I mean, he might have to by de facto fill that void, but I don't know if that's a role he wants or that, he's suited for. Tua hasn't shown the leadership ability that you typically want from a starting quarterback, so I wouldn't look at him to be that type of leader. Who steps up and is that locker room leader? Is it Chubb? Maybe, but he's one guy. And I don't even know if he's wants that role. Do they have someone on the roster today to fill that role? Or do they have to go out there and sign one of these aging veterans to be like, look, we want you because we think you can help us win, but we also need a veteran to be a leader in the locker room and be a voice to the younger talent to keep everyone in line. Maybe. I don't know. But someone has to do it because if not, it'll hurt this team. Because again, Mike McDaniel, and I don't care what he says, is not a crack the whip guy. And he's not going to turn into one overnight. That's just not his style. It's not who he is. That's not who he is to his core. And I don't want him to change because that would just come off as phony and they would laugh at him and that won't work either. But someone needs to step up and be the leaders on this team. Even Holland, to some extent. I don't know how he was viewed in the locker room. I haven't spoken to anyone who really spoke about that. I haven't been told, but he was someone you could see having some leadership qualities. Well, he's gone too. So it's going to be interesting to see the shape of this locker room. And I don't know. I mean, look, it's not a surprise that he's gone, Armstead. It was needed. They had to get younger. This team. But there is a little fallout from this in that. Now you have a question mark at left tackle, and you have huge question marks in the leadership of this roster. Because really, in this league, you need players to police themselves. And who's going to do the policing on the Miami Dolphins? I don't know. Time will tell. Okay, before we get to the next topic, quick shout out to everyone listening at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also, a shout out to our friends at the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page run by the great and talented Carlos Hernandez. If you're on Facebook, please be sure you are part of the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Podbean, Podchaser, YouTube, or one of the other hundreds of platforms we're on, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. We're going to have shows pretty much every day of the week. In the lead up to the draft, we're going to have more draft shows with Dante Colonelli, our in-house draft guru. I got shows coming up with Josh Moser. I got shows coming up with Doug Lee Durong, who's now a part of DolphinsTalk.com, and so many other special guests and surprises as well coming. And then draft night 1, Thursday, draft night 2, Friday, draft night 3, or draft day 3, Saturday. We're going to be live on YouTube each and every day for all the picks. We're going to have a post-night podcast Thursday, Friday, Saturday with myself and Tom Ernest. You're not going to want to miss any of that. And to stay up to date, you got to be subscribed to one of our podcast channels. So hit that subscribe button. Okay. Last topic on today's show. I wrote this article. It's getting a lot of attention. And I debated writing it because, look, I know being a fan of your team, you only want to hear positive and rosy things about your team. I get it. But there's also the reality of the situation. And right now, as we are in early April of 2025, I can't be rosy and have a rosy outlook of this upcoming 2025 season. Of course, things could change. It's only April. But right now, I think this might be a rough year for the Dolphins. And I know the month of March in free agency was frustrating for a lot of fans of the Dolphins. They really didn't address the offensive line. I know they signed James Daniels, but he's coming off an Achilles injury. And, we hope he's healthy by the summer, but we've seen guys have setbacks, and who knows if he comes back as the same player. I mean, they brought back Liam Eichenberg. I haven't met one fan who's happy about that. They signed Larry Borum, who, doesn't look too great, but it's a warm body. So the offensive line has been marginally improved. On the defensive line, as of today on April 5th, they have Zach Sealer and Benito Jones. I'm not even a big fan of Benito Jones, but we have to count him at this point because they got nobody else. They let Calais Campbell walk. They let Deshaun Hand, only got 1 year deal up to $3.5 million. It's not even 3.5, but up to 3. They let those two guys walk. Not to mention last year, they let Christian Wilkins walk. They haven't replaced any of these guys. They haven't replaced any of them. And, I know they signed a few marginal safeties. There have been career backups in Melifanu and Ashton Davis. There just seems to be no sense of urgency. Like, no sense of urgency from Mike McDaniel, Chris Greer, or the Miami Dolphins organization to put together a competitive roster. Now I know some of those safeties who have been career backups are probably going to be forced to start. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not because they just haven't done it well. On the line, I don't know what the hell they're doing because outside of Zach Sealer, you got nothing. They're just going to draft 3 or 4 kids and throw them to the Wolves and hope they pan out. Well, hope's not a plan, and the odds of that working are slim and none. The offensive line, I mean, the fact they re-signed Liam tells you everything. And I think I know what's going on. Because if you look, here's the deal. There's a lot of podcasts out there about the Dolphins. There's a lot of people who write about the Dolphins, whether as a hobby, whether professionally. And there's a lot of bad faith actors and grifters out there who will lie to your face, lie to you, the fans, because they want your clicks. They want your engagement. They want to string you along. They want to tell you what you want to hear because they are making money off you or they just need you engaged with them to drive up their social media numbers and stuff like that. That ain't me. That ain't how this website's ever run. I cut through the bullshit and I tell you the truth. I don't care if you listen or not. I don't care if you click or not, because I'm not going to lie to you, the listeners, about the truth. There are 2 social media facts out there, or I should say 2 social media myths out there that need to be dispelled. Number 1, that as of today on April 5th, the Miami Dolphins have no money. That is false. They have money. They have $21 million. Now you take out the $4 million that they need to sign their rookie draft class of 10 picks with, they have $17 million they can spend right now today on any free agent they want to sign. So that's $17 million. So don't say they don't have any money. They do. Anyone who tells you they have no money is making excuses for Chris Greer, is making excuses for Mike McDaniel, and carrying their water to, make excuses for why the team's sitting on their hands and doing nothing. They have money to spend if they want to spend it. Spoiler, they don't want to spend it. I'll tell you why in a minute. The other social media myth is that Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel are on the proverbial hot seat and their jobs are on the line in 2025. Who has said this? Fans and some people in the media are assuming this, and nothing, absolutely nothing in Stephen Ross's past shows this to be true. You have to remember Adam Gase and Brian Flores, the last two head coaches for the Miami Dolphins, were not fired because they didn't win enough games. They were fired because they couldn't work well with other people in the organization. Adam Gase, after a loss, week 16 or week 17, I forgot which one, went into the corridor and screamed and cursed out Stephen Ross. You go to work and scream and curse out your boss, on top of not being able to get along with other people in the Miami Dolphins front office. That's why Adam Gase was fired. Regarding Brian Flores, we all know the stories. He wouldn't talk to his assistant coaches. He was firing them left and right. Couldn't get along with Chris Greer. So there was a lot there where Brian Flores, and now everyone says he's changed. Good for Brian. But that year or so in Miami, the time he was there, he couldn't get along with anybody. He was an asshole. Let's just call it what it is. And that's why he was fired. It sure wasn't because of wins and losses, because he had 2 winning seasons in Miami, okay? They might not have made the playoffs, but that's because the AFC was strong those years, and they just missed it. But he had 2 winning seasons. He was fired for being an asshole. Mike McDaniel's not an asshole. Mike McDaniel is well-liked. He gets along with everybody. He works well with others. He can play nice in the sandbox. He is part of a collaboration. He can, give his opinion, but if his opinion isn't taken and the other person's is, he will smile and move on with his day. He gets along. And that's what Stephen Ross likes. So this notion that Chris Greer, who's been here forever, and if he hasn't been fired yet, why people think he will be fired after this year just blows my mind. And Mike McDaniel, their jobs are on the line, is false. Yes, they're under the typical pressure that every head coach and general manager is. And if Miami wins like 3 games this year, they'd be fired because any head coach or GM would. But if they win 7, 8, 9 games, they're not getting fired. Not to mention, there's rumors out there. There has been for, a few months now that Chris Greer might be moving into a senior advisor role or a VP role. There's even an unconfirmed rumor that after this draft in a few weeks, and sometime in May, he might move into that role, and they might promote someone like a Marvin Kelly or this new guy they got from the Raiders to the general manager. That might happen in May. So, anyone who just assumes, they're on the hot seat, you're making it up in your head. No one's actually said this. And if you look at Stephen Ross's past, it's just not how he operates. Why they're not spending any of this $17 million? Why there's no sense of urgency to go out there and sign another guard to make sure Liam's not the starter, or why not to add more linemen next to Zach Sealer, because Zach Sealer can't do it by himself, is because they are in a soft rebuild right now, and they don't want you to know about it. They want you to show up to the games and buy tickets, buy the concessions, buy the merchandise, spend money at Hard Rock Stadium, but they are in a soft rebuild. They are not in panic mode, and they do not expect to win a Super Bowl in 2025. This is not a full-blown blow-it-up rebuild. It's a soft rebuild. This isn't 2019 where they just jettisoned off everyone and they're starting over, blowing it up. This is, we're going to tweak as we go, ride out some of the bad contracts we got. We have a team that's probably good enough to win 7, 8, 9 games. If they catch a break or two, they'll make the playoffs. But we're not going to spend good money after bad. We're just going to sit tight, take our picks in the draft, cultivate a young core. We got Hill, we got Ramsey, we got Waddle, we got Sealer, Chubb and Phillips if they're healthy, and we're going to win some games, but we're not going all in. We're just going to we're going to ride out some of these old deals and tweak this as we go. This is a soft rebuild. They just don't want you to know it. Because if you gave Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel a truth serum right now, they would tell you, in hindsight, obviously, they wish they never gave Tua Tagovailoa his extension last year. That they wish they never reworked Tyreek Hill's deal last August and gave him more money. And to a lesser extent, they probably wish they hadn't extended Jalen Ramsey's contract and paid him more. And I think they know they kind of screwed this up. And before they spend good money after bad, they want to right these wrongs. The problem is it takes time. They must wait out those contracts to a point where moving on from one of those 3 players makes sense. Now, for Tyreek Hill, it's easy. This is it. This is his last year in Miami. Tyreek Hill is a total distraction of malcontent that they cannot move on from soon enough. I know there's a way to move on from him this year, post June 1st. It's just unlikely. But the way his contract is structured, moving on from him next offseason, next March 2026, they can just cut him. It gives Miami $36 million in cap space, and they have to eat $15 million in dead money. They will eat that dead money with a smile to move on from him, as he is constant drama, and he has brought constant drama to this franchise. Not to mention he kind of quit in the middle of the game as well. He's just one headache after another. Not to mention he has a court date in the middle of this upcoming season, to where if that isn't settled by then, he's going to maybe miss a game or two because he has to be in court. Who the hell knows? It's just always something. This is Tyreek Hill's last season, and they will get the $36 million in cap space next year. Now, with Tua, it's a bit more tricky because he's a quarterback and because that contract is so bloated. They can't move on from him now, obviously. Next year, you can't really cut him. Now, you could trade him after this season, but here's the problem. A, if you're willing to trade him, it means this past season didn't go that well. B, who the hell wants him? And C, who's going to absorb that contract? So good luck with trying to trade him. And if you do trade him with that contract, and if you're trading him, it means this season probably didn't go great. What are you going to get back compensation-wise? You're not going to get a first or a second. You're probably getting a fifth or a sixth round pick at best. So Miami's best bet is to wait until after the 2026 season when the cap hit is much lower. You just cut them and move on. And if I look into a crystal ball right now, in 2025, this is going to be Tua's season. He'll be okay. Typical Tua. Not bad. Not great. He's okay. He'll miss his 4 to 6 games, most likely. Miami will either miss the playoffs or maybe they sneak in, but they're out in round 1. And next year, this time, March 2026, they're going to be looking, or I shouldn't say March, I would say April 2026, they're going to be looking for a young quarterback in the early rounds of the draft to take over for Tua after 2026. Because if you go back and listen to Chris Greer's end-of-season press conference he had back in January, he threw Tua under the bus, criticized him for not protecting himself and not being available each week on the field. He sounded like a general manager who was fed up and done with a starting quarterback. Don't believe me? Go to the Miami Dolphins YouTube channel, find the video, watch it yourself. Don't take my word for it. Now, with Ramsey, it's a lesser extent because his contract isn't as costly as Tyreek and Tua's, but they probably do regret giving him that extension because he's going to be 32 in October, and he's got void years on this deal until 2029, meaning if they don't cut him, he's going to be on the books through 2029, even if he's not on the team. And that's not good. But if you look at his contract and how it's structured, next offseason in March, if Miami cuts Ramsey with a post-June 1st designation, it opens up $18 million of salary cap space, and they only have to eat $6 million. I don't need to be O's the mentalist to know Ramsey's future next March. So the long and short of it is, the Miami Dolphins are really treading water in 2025, and this is a soft rebuild. They aren't going all in to win a Super Bowl, because if they were, they would have signed another offensive guard to make sure Liam's not the starter. They would have signed at least 2 more defensive linemen to put next to Zach Sealer. They would have signed a veteran cornerback to play opposite Ramsey. And then with whoever they take in the draft, that's just a cherry on top of the sundae. And we're trying to win games, and we're trying to win, and we're trying to make a deep run in the playoffs. They aren't doing that. But they aren't tanking either, because they do have quality players on this team. Hill and Ramsey are going to the Hall of Fame. Tua is an above-average quarterback. Waddle's pretty damn good. Chubb, if he's healthy, is good. Phillips, if he's healthy, is good. Sealer's good. They got talent. Jordan Brooks, good. Jonnu Smith, good. So they're going to win games, but they're not putting on a full court press here to fill every void that they have on this roster. They're going to be okay with putting a couple rookies out there, seeing if they sink or swim. They're essentially playing out the string with this core of players before next offseason they move on from a bunch of them and start, moving more towards the future with what they want with this team. They're going to use this upcoming draft to bring in an influx of young talent. A couple of these guys, yes, they have 10 picks, but let's be honest. With the way Chris Greer drafts, only a couple of them are going to really play this year. Maybe the guys you take at 13, 48, maybe 98. After that, good luck. But the rest you hope to get in your pipeline. You start to develop them to be second stringers next year. In a year from now, Chris Greer will be either your GM, your senior advisor, or your VP. He ain't going nowhere. They'd have to win, like I said, 2 or 3 games for him to lose a job. Mike McDaniel, he ain't going nowhere. Why? They like him. And by they, I mean Mr. Ross and Chris Greer. Mr. Ross, Stephen Ross, his image in NFL circles isn't a good one. He's getting sued by Flores. That's still ongoing. The whole thing with Harbaugh many years ago still hangs over his head. he's not viewed as a serious owner. And, Mike McDaniel softens his image because he's so likable. And if Mike McDaniel can work for this guy and it's all sort of, they're getting along, it makes Ross look good. So he ain't going nowhere. I mean, again, they win 2 or 3 games, yeah, all bets are off. They win 6 or 7, he ain't going nowhere. Mike McDaniel's Marvin Lewis, okay? He can be here forever. Some years you win 6 games with him and you're kind of upset and you're frustrated. Some years you win 10 and you think you have false hope that you're close. But that's who Mike McDaniel is. He's going to be here a while because he's Marvin Lewis at the end of the day. Next year, Tyreek and Ramsey probably be gone. Miami's going to have a bunch of salary cap space, although Ramsey will be post you in first space. But still, they'll have a lot of salary cap space. And probably next year, the Dolphins start the process of transitioning to life after Tua. So if you're confused as to why Miami hasn't signed another offensive guard or a defensive lineman, when they got, like I said, $17 million to spend here, they got $17 million to spend because it's not about 2025. It's about 2026 and 2027. They won't admit it and they won't tell you because they need you to show up to the stadium, spend tickets, buy merchandise and all that good stuff. But just look at their actions and look at the contracts. That's the answer right there. Some people want to put their head in the sand and ignore it. Some people will now open their eyes and see it and go, you know what? Probably right. And again, there's going to be bad faith actors on social media, bad faith actors who have podcasts, bad faith actors who write or have blogs who are going to tell you, no, just ignore that. We're going to make the Super Bowl this year. We're really good. We just got to get the right guy in the draft and we're going to make a run. Folks, don't fall for it. You're just setting yourself to have your heart broken. Don't listen to the bad faith actors. Don't listen to the drifters because that's what they are. This team's ceiling is sneaking in the playoffs as a 6 or a 7 seed. They're not going to catch the Bills. They're not even close to catching the Bills. But you look at the roster construction of this offseason, all the holes they have now in early April, all the money they have to spend that they're not, it tells you Greer, McDaniel feel safe in their jobs. They've probably been told they have job security, and they're looking towards the future, and they're not trying to win at all cost in 2025. This is a soft rebuild. I know as fans, you want to think every year your team's got a chance. I don't think Miami has much of a chance this year. They're going to have some exciting moments. They'll probably have some exciting wins. But this is like an 8-win team, 9-win team max. Probably 9 is like the max. And it could be less because, again, now you have a question mark at left tackle. You have a right tackle who's never healthy. You have a quarterback who's never healthy. You got a wide receiver who's a stark raving freaking lunatic. And then on the other side of the ball, Ramsey's really your only true corner you trust. Kader Ko, who's all right, but Ramsey's the only one you trust. Safety positions, a bunch of career backups. Even if you add a rookie into the mix, it's a rookie. There's going to be mistakes. Then you look at the line, Zach Sealer and nobody else. Add a couple rookies. Great. They're rookies. They're rookies. And then you look at who's left to be signed. On the offensive line, there's a couple guards, like a Brandon Sheriff, Will Hernandez type, who could probably come in and help. On the defensive line, earmuffs, there's fucking nothing. They are going to ride with a defensive line of Zach Sealer, Benito Jones, and a bunch of rookies, and this might be ugly. And if you're Anthony Weaver right now, you're wishing the Saints hired you to be their head coach because this is going to be a tough gig fixing or trying to run this defense in 2025 with that type of defensive line. It just is. All right, that's all for today's show. Everyone, thank you for listening. Check out the website, DolphinsTalk.com, for all the latest news, rumors, original commentary podcasts. Don't want to miss them. DolphinsTalk.com is the place to be. Also, social media, follow us on any platform at Dolphins Talk. Once again, patreon.com/DolphinsTalk, $3 a month. And if you want to be part of our interactive mock draft, April 18th, 8 p.m., myself, Josh Aaron, Tom might be involved, and however many Dolphins Talk extra members want to join us live on a podcast. You'll be on screen, you'll be live with us, and you'll get your 2 or 3 or 4 teams. And when one of the teams you've been assigned is on the clock, we're going to go Joe Schmo with the Cincinnati Bengals. Who do you pick? And you get 90 seconds or so, make your pick, tell us why, on to the next one. Then you're going to be up again probably in a few minutes with your second team that you've been assigned. It's going to be a lot of fun. But it's only open to Dolphins Talk extra members. So go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. Again, if you want to win this 2025 Dolphins draft hat, just go to our Apple podcast page 5-star rating, positive review, screenshot, email to DolphinsTalk1977@gmail.com. Send me proof, and you'll be entered the contest. And Monday, I'll draw the winner. So, everyone, thank you for listening on this Saturday evening. If you're listening on Sunday, have a great Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll talk to you again after a while. And, folks, please don't forget, we must put an end to highway profanity. Hey guys, Mike here from DolphinsTalk.com. Just want to thank you for watching this video today. Please be sure to like and subscribe to this video. And also just thank you in general. I know you have a lot of other podcast options out there these days, whether it's with the Miami Dolphins or about the Miami Dolphins, and with non-Miami Dolphins podcast stuff like true crime, politics, NBA, Major League Baseball. We do appreciate the support you guys provide us, and we do thank you for watching our content. We appreciate it more than you'll ever know. So thank you so much. Just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And also, don't forget to sign up for our Patreon service. Go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. And for just $3 a month, you will get more Miami Dolphins coverage and shows. Patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. Thank you again, and everyone have a great day.